What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today, in the world of indie games, we are going to be checking out a title called The Banished Vault. This one's a weird one. This is a strange one. It took me, I think, about 2 hours to really get, ready to rock with this game and figure out what I wanted to do with it and, how it all functions. It's a game that has, no tutorial. You've got to just, it's got a full, 60 or 7, it's, how many pages? 46-page manual that I have read through, and so I know how to play the game, and I've done a round or two just to feel it out. But the Banished Vault, what is it? It is a space post-apocalyptic survival game where you are a fortress monastery in space that is trying to gather the materials necessary in order to broadcast a message home to Earth, letting them know that while you were out proselytizing to the galaxy and converting everyone to your noble faith, you found a great darkness at the edge of the galaxy. And it's not staying there. It's headed towards the core. And so this game is basically a futile race against time to try to warn your entire civilization that something terrible is coming, it is happening, and it's going to eat our faces off, and we're going to hate it. And so I bought this game this morning, I've played for a couple hours, and I think I'm ready to level off my first impressions of the game. If you wanted to get the Banished Vault, you can get it down below in the description. If you wanted to support me, you can do that through any number of links down there for Discord and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Let's get started. So, the basics of this game. What is the point of the game? We need to move. We have 30 turns until the darkness arrives and consumes us and eats our faces off, and we make lots of dying noises, all right? 30 turns. We need to manufacture enough stasis to put all 4 of these guys to sleep, get it on board the ship, and go to the next sector. However, there's also a side objective and tertiary objectives. The side objective is, this game is completely procedural, and as you can see, it's got a very interesting art style too. This planet right here is called a hallowed planet. This is one of the things that we were out searching for as a proselytizing vessel. This planet is one of the only ones that has Ansible contact with the center of the galaxy that will allow us to manufacture the Chronicle. And so they won't just believe us back on the core planets. So we're creating a Chronicle. But in this game, for whatever reason, you can only write the Chronicle inside the Holy of Holies, and so that's why you need a hallowed planet, is so you can build a Holy of Holies, and then you can write that down. So really, the biggest goal of the game is to move in between systems until you fill out the Chronicle 4 times, I think, or 3 times, 4. 4 times, and then you, win the game, basically. Aside from that, there are secondary objectives. Secondary objective is to keep the ship flying, so manufacture enough fuel, manufacture enough stasis to mean that you can outrun the darkness and still get your objectives done. Tertiary goals are to collect knowledge and artifacts from these planets, avoid dying, keep everybody's faith nice and high, because remember, we're kind of like an Imperium-style, hyper-religious, everybody is a part of the dogma in this game, and so we've got to keep everybody's faith up as well. So we've been given an arc, and it is full of various items. The first thing you'll notice is that the art style is very stark. Everything has been done in kind of this pencil. I think it's a little jarring and all. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great artwork, but I would have preferred color. That's just me personally. I'm not a big monochrome guy. Still, the art style throughout this game is consistent. You can see some of it on display here in the manual. Very, very beautiful stuff. Whoever did this artwork knows their way around kind of Giger. Which is, I think, the inspiration that I got from a lot of it, is it's sort of, a lot of the art in this game reminds me of the ships that the architects pilot in, the Aliens, Nebulous, and whatnot, and all those movies. And so we've got an arc, it's full of things. We have fuel, we have iron, we have water, we have titanium, we have silica, we have alloy, we have elixir. All of these things have various uses. If it comes up during the course of this video, I will talk about it, but for right now, it's probably not going to be that relevant. I need to strip the engines off of all of these craft right here. These are engines, and these are spaceships. We have 3 of them. We have the Flame Nonad. The Flame Nonad is just a little tiny scout vessel, 4 cargo slots, and 2 passenger slots. The Octad is the same, and then the Font Tetrad is going to be our first frigate. It's got 8 slots, and it's got room for 3 people, and so it may be a good ship to bring out if you're trying to get a big job done that requires a lot of resources. for right now, we don't really need to go too crazy with all of this. Let's go ahead and take these little tiny ships right here, and we're going to put little tiny engines inside of them. There's a number of things that are used in this game to calculate your fuel to energy ratio. This is probably the crunchiest part of the game, and probably the thing that's going to worry the most people. It's complicated. So basically, you have an energy calculator right here. Every engine has efficiency if you mouse over it. So with this guy, we would say 175 efficiency, like so. And then it's got 2 thrust. On top of that, we also have a ship mass of 2. So we put that right there. And then how much fuel we want to burn. And we're trying to basically get the energy amount. If you look, if we target over here, to get to this planet, it would take us 18 energy in order to get over here. So this ship, using the current engine that we're using, would take 3 turns, and it would take 18 energy. And we're producing 21 using this engine right now off of 5 fuel. So it would take us maybe 4 fuel to get over there, would be my guess. Yeah, roundaboutish 4 to 3 fuel to get over there. And you're going to use this calculator to calculate whether or not you have enough fuel to make return trips and whatnot. You'll get used to it after a little while, but it is a little bit gritty and crunchy. I do think they could have used a more elegant system right there that takes a little bit less staring at a slide rule, I guess. Like, I think they could have just been like, this engine moves you this far for 1 fuel. But I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to calculate in like slingshotting around these corners and stuff like that. Because if you notice, each of these dots costs more and more energy to move around. So going up into a corner and cornering is more expensive than flying in a straight line because of like inertia and whatnot. So like that, I know they were going for realism, but I feel like a simpler system probably would have been better. But this is very much a board game. So if you've ever played anything like Nemesis Lockdown, this is a lot like that, or Settlers of Catan. The game that I compare this to is Tharsis, actually. This game reminds me of hyper-religious Tharsis. This is a game about figuring out what you need, figuring out what you have, figuring out how to get it to a collection point, manufacture it into the thing that satisfies your objective, while at the same time not wasting a whole bunch of time and getting you killed. There are occasionally going to be spots where events will come up RimWorld style while we're sailing around the galaxy. Based on people's faith rating, which is on their little card right here, they will be better or worse at resolving those crises. And so let's get these ships set up. I'm going to split everybody up. That's probably not super advisable, but I'm going to give everybody a ship that can have a ship. So we'll have this little guy right here. Oh, this is the big ship. Okay, we'll have, well, these guys have crappy faith. I don't want them to screw up and blow up my big ship. The big ship is going to kind of be important for getting things done. With the big ship, we got to figure out, so like I could give them like a big engine right there, but let me do the calculation real fast. Okay, so with the calculation, this big ship is factually never making it to this planet down here. It would require an absurd amount of fuel. So we're going to have to do it with smaller ships in order to get it done. It's funny, I was looking at the forums for this game, and it's funny watching younger gamers freak out and be like, what is this thing right here? I don't know how it works. If I try to move the red line, what is it? And I'm like, it's called a slide rule. Even for me, it's kind of old, but I have used a slide. Like, slide rules are before my time, but I did have math teachers that forced me to use a slide rule for several, like, for like a semester, basically. You weren't allowed to use a calculator. You had to use a slide rule for everything just to, like, learn how to use one, because it's, like, the most bare basic way to calculate things like tangents and whatnot. And so, like, it's been interesting. I guess nobody teaches slide rules anymore. Why would they? You don't need it. You have a phone in your pocket that does everything a slide rule would, you know? Like, why would they? So with the big ship over here, we'll send this faithless goober with him, and then with the Nonad, we'll put you inside of there. So you're fueled, and you. Now, the first thing we want to look for here is, in order to manufacture stasis, what do we need? To manufacture stasis, we need water, we need carbon dioxide, and we need titanium. That's pretty much it. So if you take a look at these legs over here, unfortunately, we don't have any planet that produces all of those things by itself. Well, we do. It's just super far away and impossible to get to. Womp, womp, womp. And if we develop this place out for manufacturing, we are not going to have enough tiles left in order to create the scriptorum, which is very large. So while we technically have a planet that solves all of our problems down here, it actually doesn't. It creates more problems because we're going to have to manufacture ungodly amounts of energy in order to get down there. So instead, what I would suggest is let's go ahead and we're going to use this guy as our kind of like our manufacturing hub. He's going to fly around, he's going to build all the buildings, and then once we have all the buildings built, we'll figure out what we want to do next, because we haven't even seen the surface of these planets yet. We just know that these elements are there. We don't know what configuration they're in, we don't know how deep they are, we don't know how hard they are to get to, and so until we have that information, we're not going to be very useful. So I'm going to send him over to the planet. It's going to take 3 fuel to get there. It's going to take a couple of turns. Other units, they can go out and scout, I guess. But I kind of need to... Well, actually, I'm going to have to scout these planets down here anyways. So let's go head back to our flotilla, and we will put some iron on board here. I think I need titanium for fuel refining. I didn't bring any either. I'm an idiot. Okay. Fine, these guys are going to have to make a delivery over here just like the previous ship, but they can do it in 1 turn, so it's not that big of a deal. This ship right here, give them some iron, and then send them down here. It should only be like 1 fuel to get down there. Yeah, it should be pretty easy. Time is going to be our main expenditure here, and as you can see, as we pass our turns, things are going to happen. Now, as we go past points of interest, these little discs are going to line up. What are these little discs? Think of them as like the slots for your motels in Monopoly. So you click on these, it's going to take you down to the surface of the planet, and it's going to tell you if there's artifacts in orbit of the planet. We can see what kind of, we can make a methane harvester, a CO2 harvester if those things existed here. We could do an orbital structure. We could do a stellar surveyor. I actually didn't see those two, so I don't know what those two do. Interesting. We'll investigate further. And we can also go down to the surface of the planet right here, and we can take a look. And this configuration seems okay to me. We have water and we have carbon. Those are 2 of the 3 things we need in order to manufacture what it is that we want to manufacture. So we're going to go ahead and put this guy in the labor slot on this planet. You will see that all these buildings will unlock. We will go ahead and we will put the titanium and the iron on the surface because it won't work if it's in our cargo hold. And we are going to put in a CO2 harvester, a key. We're going to have him use his 1 action to construct it. And as you can see, the entire game is also leaning into that board game angle. All of the little pieces in this game are made out of like burnished and finished wood with little brass features on them and whatnot. And honestly, the little buildings are really cool. You can see the logic of why some of the buildings look the way they are. And so, for example, there was one building where we manufacture our stasis at, and the stasis is like a holy thing that puts you to sleep so that you can go proselytize in the galaxy and not die in transit of old age. And so the place where they manufactured is like a big altar where you walk up to like this giant sphere that has recessions where the stasis is manufactured, and they scoop it up into a bottle carefully while praying and singing hymns. It's a very Warhammer 40k adjacent board game, in all honesty, if I had to tell you the truth. We can also click on these guys down here if we wanted to just get to them quickly. We have another ship in orbit over here, I think. We do indeed, so we can actually do more stuff on this planet too. So we're going to want to harvest some water from over here. There's our water harvester. We'll take that guy out, and we will construct. So there's our water harvester. And then this guy, we'll put him in the labor slot. And what we'd like from him is a fuel producer, actually. A fuel producer would be really good. Yeah, let's do that. Fuel producer's now in. And so we have effectively turned this into a factory planet. These guys can now exchange their actions to get us water, to get us fuel, which is water-based, and then also to get us carbon dioxide. So we'll have water and carbon dioxide in this location. All we need is titanium, and we've already got a good stack of that. So we're in pretty good shape right now for manufacturing a big batch of stasis so that we can peel out and get out of this area if we want to later on down the line. These guys have not arrived at their destination yet, but they should be able to set up a titanium mine over here or something. They're also doing an important duty by scouting all these areas to figure out if we can find artifacts to increase our knowledge I'm not exactly sure what knowledge does yet after a couple hours of playing. I went through the manual for a little while, but couldn't seem to lock it down. It seems to change things on subsequent runs because this knowledge is not from this run. This is from my previous run where I was fiddling around with things. So it does something. I just haven't really locked it in yet. Everybody's used up all their actions, so we'll go ahead and go. He has arrived at his destination. Let's see what we got over here. So we have no artifacts on this planet. We have titanium, we have silica, and we have iron, but the iron is at a depth of 1. So in order to get after that iron, we would have to deploy a thumper, resource excavator. We do have silica over here, which is probably good. We do have titanium, which is also pretty rad. This guy came here with the sole intent of creating a titanium mining operation, so that's exactly what we're gonna do real fast. We'll make our titanium harvester, and we will put him in right there. There we go. I like the way you build it right there, right there. And then we've got silica on that side. I'm gonna ignore that iron for right now. I feel like we can get it from somewhere else that doesn't cost us resources. Let's go back over to these guys. They were all over here on the water planet doing water planet carbon things. And so we have water harvesting. Go ahead and grab some water on out of there. It has appeared to me that different buildings produce different amounts. So, like, I feel like sometimes you get 1 out of a location and sometimes you get 2 out of a location when it comes to this stuff. We'll put you back in over there, and then we will have you produce a little bit of carbon dioxide. I guess it doesn't. Maybe I just got water mixed up with carbon dioxide. We also have the Nomad. No, these guys are all on the same ship right now. Okay, we're going to manufacture a buttload of fuel over here. And then we are also going to get all the things together, plus extra stacks that we're going to need in order to make our stasis and get off planet. Sound good? Because that's the game plan for right now. We aren't necessarily going to need the titanium, but we are going to have to get the water and the carbon out of here. One cool reference, just in case you need it, in the back glossary of the manual, it tells you what you need for every single building, every single manufacturing cost, every single item, every single ship, every single engine. Every single recipe is inside the manual, so you don't actually need to go and track down the planet where your factory is to figure out what things are going to cost you. You can just use the manual as a reference. One thing I would recommend is, so really the goal for right now, I think, is for us to, so like with the Flame Nomad right here, we can have him run water, we can have him run the titanium, and if these two take shifts in the carbon skimmer, we can also have the Nomad run the carbon back to the world map. And with the Nomad, he can probably run it back over here. Let me take a look at this planet real fast, though, and make sure we've got space. Because if we don't have space... Sir, what kind of building you got going on over here? If you wanted to make a Stasis Producer, we need alloy. Stasis Producer does fit, but we'll lose access to a silica mine. But I feel like this is the best way to get the Stasis done, in my opinion. It feels right to me. So instead, what I would have this guy do then is you run back to the main mothership and grab the alloy. And that's going to take 2 turns, okay? And then over here, we want the tetrad to come over here. It's going to take 2 fuel to do that. You can start that maneuver. I guess technically it would be more efficient to have this guy work 1 shift then go over there. But I don't know. Oh no, dude, I wasted a turn. I didn't lock in with it. Oh, I didn't say begin journey. I forgot to click on the thingy. That's on me. All right, so we'll try that again then. You come back over here. Start maneuver. Hopefully 1 turn doesn't end up being the difference between life and death. Otherwise, I'm going to feel very foolish. Start maneuver. There you go. All right, I did it this time. You see me? Did you see me done did it? Because I done did it this time. I done did it so good. But with these 2 guys over here, we want them to get to work manufacturing fuel. So I want them in the water harvester. There we go. And once they're done with the water harvester, We will convert this all into... I don't know how many stacks of fuel I should bring back with me for the next map. I'm not really too sure. We got lots of storage space. Maybe 5? I don't know. Hard to say. But that's everybody's turn. Everybody's kind of like shifting around, trying to go where they're going right now. He's arrived, so that's good. We're going to need the thing for the scriptorum over here, unfortunately. I also need to look around on this planet. Maybe I'll stop while I'm down here, because like this guy is already here, and he's bringing all the stuff for stasis manufacturing. We'll just drop that off. There we go. It's all been dropped. He can come back this way and go to... There is a methane farm up there, which is an interesting prospect. Got a little bit of a spatial fart gas with the sounds of space. Let's go ahead and move over to here. And now we should be ready for fuel manufacturing over on this side. Me thinkies anyways. Was there anything on this planet right here? Hey, there's three artifacts. Good. I'll grab those while I'm in the neighborhood too. There's also like some loot. Oh wow, this is a big planet. Lots of building space. Spacious, roomy. So much room for space activities. All right, let's see. On our base over here, we are going to want to go to the fuel producer. We're going to want to start knocking out some fuel. Just refining like crazy. And then we can end a turn right there. Hopefully everybody gets to where they're trying to go. He did indeed get to where he's trying to go. Top off his fuel a little bit. Give me an alloy. Was it 1 alloy or 2 alloys that I need in order to make the stasis producer? 1 alloy. Okay, that's fine. You've already got the stuff that you need. So, sir, if you can head back over to your manufacturing center, that'd be great. We're making long runs right here, and I'm not actually inherently altogether that happy about it. Oh, there's artifacts on this planet, too. Okay, finish your refining, and we'll get the artifacts after you're done refining. So we've got barrels upon barrels upon barrels of fuel now that are going to be coming back to the mothership. That's great, because as I showed you with the calculator, sometimes things can get very expensive with regards to fuel efficiency in this game. Paganus, you're already on, like, Peg Anus. That's what I'm calling him from now on. Peg Anus, you've got... There's your artifacts right there, all right? Grab those. You can shift-click things, too, if you want to put them in the cargo hold. These have knowledge value. Still don't know exactly what knowledge does. Let me go to the forums. And then Peg Anus, we need him to go back to... I think we need him to go back to the main planet now. Or I'm sorry, he needs to go back to our main base with all of these artifacts. Were there any artifacts inside this area or anything? Like, there is a methane harvester opportunity right here. What does it cost to make a methane harvester? It looks like an orbital harvester is going to cost me, like, 1 titanium. Okay. Not too... It might be worth it. Methane is useful. We need the methane, the fart gas, to make elixir. Elixir is how you fortify these guys' faith. You bring them back to the main ship, and there's a chapel on the main ship that lets you just basically dunk their heads in slurricane until they feel better. And then over here, we can also create various engines and various ships of varying sizes, so on and so forth. We only need like 1 more ship if we wanted each person to have their own ship, but So the points to pick here after about 2 hours of playing the game. A bit of a summary, as it were, because you've seen me playing in action now. What are my actual thoughts from the last couple hours? Well, I haven't seen everything yet, and I haven't done everything yet, and it's been about 2 hours, and there are a lot of gameplay concepts that I have still not fiddled around with, so it seems like there's content density here. I don't really have any complaints. I think the engine and fuel system could probably have been simplified by like 1 step of complexity. Like, it feels like there's a step in there that probably could have been eliminated and just like left to conceptualization. But the current layer of complexity isn't that hard to understand just by hunting and pecking values and, like, applying yourself. Like, the first run was annoying figuring out fuel. It was like, okay, so, like, thrust, like, what does thrust do? What does energy generation do? But after I started reading all of the labels that are on all of the little chains and tiles on the map, and I started looking at the calculations being used and using the slide rule, if you learn how it works, you will start to do it intuitively and know like what engine you need for what job without even looking at the slide rule. At least it worked for me after a couple of hours. It was only the really, really huge trips that I needed to break out the slide rule for, because it's just really hard in a conceptual phase to figure out how you're going to generate 50 energy there and back while also saving space for cargo. And so that's when I did have to break out the slide rule. And I think that's kind of endemic of like the entire game. Like the entire game, the learning curve is going to be the thing that scares a lot of people off here. I think it's going to take you, it took me 37 minutes to read through the manual and digest it and process it and fiddle around with the game before I felt like I wasn't completely and totally flailing in the deep end of the pool. So about 40 minutes of discomfort, and then it gets better. There is a very brief guided reading / tutorial of the most important stuff in the manual. It like kind of counts as a tutorial, but it's not really a tutorial. It's you reading the manual, and the manual is kind of like giving you steps like move this piece over to here. You know, it's like sort of a tutorial, but it's like a really old school tutorial that's mostly manual reading and following steps. It's not modern, but it was immersive. I mean, I felt like it did blend well with the game's soundscape in an odd sort of way as I'm thumbing through sort of this in-character Bible for how to, you know, fly my arc. And so, like, it's definitely got its appeal, I think. Like, I don't think Banished Vault is going to be a game that excites most gamers. It's not a game that's setting out for mass market appeal. This game reminds me of Screwfly games, things like Fear Equation, and things like Dead Knot. It's a game that's targeting a very specific, chunky UI niche that rests, in my opinion, somewhere in between the points of a manufacturing game, Tharsis, and Warhammer 40k. It's moody, it's sweltering, it pressures you, the game broods, it's lonely, it has atmosphere in absolute spades, but it is never going to be the game for people that are looking for like the next Cliff Bleszinski Bulletstorm game. If you're looking for thrills, you are not going to find them here. This is a game that generates a quiet sort of anxiety. The sort of anxiety that comes with like figuring out if you're going to be able to pay your bills at the end of the month, and if after paying those you'll be able to pay them next month. That is to say, it's a game that's about figuring out what you have, figuring out what you need, figuring out how you're going to get it, and then once you get it, it's about the much more terrifying proposition of like what you may need down the line in order to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of the next map so that you're not constantly scrambling and losing ground. If you're a fan of Tharsis, I think that is the game that is most like this. As I've said multiple times in this video, Tharsis was also a game about what I have, what I need, minimizing damage, and it was a sweltering, moody, pressuring, deadly game. This game is a lot like that. I think you'll like it a lot if Tharsis's board game style layout didn't bother you. The game can be a little bit overly clicky in terms of UI. It can be a little bit fiddly with its UI, but it is intuitive. You will figure it out. You're just going to spend a lot of time cruising through pages of the manual here and there for references to building materials and whatnot, but the manual looks sexy. It's a really nice manual. If this sort of old school Pentium 1 1996 hyper simulator gameplay stimulates you, I think the Banished Vault is a really good grab at $20 or $25. It's got a clear vision, it's got a direction, it's got an atmosphere, it has an idea, it executes it all inside of those parameters. It's just not a game for everybody, but for the person this game is for, it's going to be rad as hell and they're going to love it. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, we were fooling around with the Banished Vault. Tomorrow we'll be fooling around with something else. Thanks for hanging out with me, and that's all I got.